Into Amy's Crafts and Things. I'm Amy. Today's project, we are going to learn how to digitize out the stitching for a mug rug or a coaster. This will work for both ways. Coasters are excellent for hoops that are 4x4 or 5x7. I'm using my 200 by 300 millimeter hoop, my biggest hoop, today to be able to do this. Like I said, you can adjust the size of your project to the size of your hoop. The first thing I need to do to prepare my screen is I need my grid lines up on my hoop so that I can ensure proper placement of my sewing lines. To find your grid lines, go to View, Show Grid. I have mine set at 6.4 millimeters, which is the equivalent of 1/4 of an inch. I need to draw a fabric placement line. So let's grab our shapes. Let's go to Rectangle, Running Stitch, No Fill, and a runtime of 1. Let's go Home, and we will resize our rectangle by clicking on the second button. And my measurement is 203.2 by 177.8. And we will unmark Maintain Aspect Ratio. Click OK. Go to the Home, Arrange, and move to Center. The next thing I need to do is to create a placement line for my fabric that will be my panel and my pocket. So I will go to Shapes, select Open Straight Line, go to my box, click on the top of it, click Shift, and bring it all the way down. Let's see if I can do this. Perfect. And there's our straight line. I think I have a little extra point there that I'll go get rid of. And I will do that by selecting my point tool. Let's see, I make sure I have the right one selected, and I will select on that extra little point there and hit Delete, and it will take it away. We'll go Home and click back on our Select. Now I need to make sure it's in the right space. It's a little too far to the right for my liking. So I will go ahead and click on that line, right click, select the object, and I want to move it to about 2.5 boxes on my grid. So right about there. And I also need to change it to a different color because this is an in the hoop project. And with all in the hoop projects, you need to have different colors for your different sewing lines to allow you time to get in and to manipulate your project. You do, if you have a multi-needle machine, please remember to go into your machine and program in your stops so that you are stopping at each place that is required of you to be able to put fabric down and stitch out your project. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a sewing line. To do that, I'm going to go Home. I have my placement line already selected, so I will copy and paste it, and I will change it to a different color. Let's go to pink this time, and I'm going to move it over. Use my arrow keys this time. I want to move it over to about 1/4 of an inch, roughly, because it's just a sewing line. So about 1/4 of an inch away from the placement line. And because this is a sewing line, I'm going to change my run time to 3. And click Enter. Now, that's your sewing line. So what will happen is after you sew that, you will fold your pocket and your panel piece over. And if you would like to add top stitching, this is the place to do that. If you would like to add a motif stitch, you can do that. A good place to do it is right on top of that sewing line. So it's already selected. Let's go Home, let's copy, let's paste it. Let's go to Shapes, give it a different color. And you can choose any of these wonderful stitches. Zigzag, running, triple, motif. I like to do the motif on this design. I like the flower, but feel free to click on that box to access all the other designs available to you to use. you can also adjust the size of your motif. I prefer the 12.3 by 12.3 millimeter size. And I'm actually going to move it over just a little bit because my motif stitch is a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to scooch it over just a little bit. You don't have to. You can put it where you want. I also would like to put a triple stitch on the other side of my seam. So I'm going to click on my fabric placement line, which is right above that in your sewing order. Click Select Object. That's your sewing line. Let's go above my fabric placement line. Select that object instead. So we're going to select the fabric placement line for our triple stitch. That's my top stitch that I like to use. And I want to change the run pitch to about a 3.5 just to make it a little wider. And that will get your panel and your pocket in place. On the right side of your rectangle is where you will put your design. Feel free to get creative. This is where you're going to put your design. It can be anything. It could be something you digitized yourself. It can be something you purchased. It could be an applique design, anything. I'm going to choose something that I found built into the program. And I will find that by going to Import from Design Library. It will bring me up to this box. And where it says From, it says Design Library. I will change that actually to Sample. When you have free time, go in and look at all these great things. Under Category, there's a bunch of different things here for different categories. I would like to use various sew types. And I will scroll all the way down till I find the design I'm looking for, which is this one, Floral 05. It's a butterfly with flowers. So I will import it. Because I want it on the left side of my project, I'm going to rotate it to the left. And I also want to resize it because I know it's going to be too big for that side of my project. So I will go Home. I will go to Size. And I will resize that to 84 millimeters. So we'll click on the second button, 84 millimeters by 124.8 millimeters. And I will uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio and click OK. Now I will go ahead and click on that design, hold my Shift key down to keep it center, and move it over to the left. And let go of everything, and it will move it. I can also use my arrows to readjust it a little bit. Now, this is where it becomes either a coaster if you're doing a smaller design because of your 4x4 hoop. You will also use this step for your mug rug. There's just one little difference between the two. To sew the back piece on, we need to create a sewing line, which will be in the shape of a rectangle. So we will grab our rectangle, we will change it to a running stitch. Because it's a sewing line, I need to have that as a runtime of 3 because embroidery thread is weaker than sewing thread, so I want to make sure the back is secure in place. So we're going to draw a rectangle for our sewing to sew everything together. I'm going to give it a different color. Let's go dark gray for this one. And I need to give it a different size. So let's go to Home, Size, second button, 190.6, 190.6 by 165.1. And uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio. Click OK, go to Arrange, and put that in the center. Now, if you're doing a coaster because you have a smaller hoop or you prefer this method, you need to create an opening so that you can turn your project right side out. To do that, if you remember from my previous lessons, you will go to your Select tool, grab your select point, and you will create a point in the middle of the centermost and leftmost point at the bottom of your inner rectangle. You will go to Shapes, Split at Point. You will do the same thing on the right hand side. Click, Shapes, Split at Point. Next, you will go to your sewing order, scroll all the way down to the bottom, expand your last rectangle, find that piece that you just separated, right click, select your object, and delete it. And there you go. That's how you sew your back piece on. When you turn it right side out, you will need to hand sew your opening closed or use your preferred fusible fabric glue to glue your opening shut. If you're going to do the envelope style, I will click on undo a couple of times here and talk you through that. So there is our inner rectangle. This is where you will put your two pieces of backing fabric. The narrower piece will go on the right side, matching up all your raw edges, and the fold will be pointed towards the middle. You will do that with the left side as well. It will be a little bit wider of a rectangle, but you want that fold pointed towards the middle with your raw edges on the outside. And it will sew it around and secure it. And then after it secures it in place, you're welcome to take it out of your hoop, trim it, clip your curves, and you will turn it right side out. Now for review, I will run through the sewing simulator to make sure we have everything and talk you through it one more time. So here is your placement line where you will be placing your fabric on the inside of this rectangle. After you place your fabric down, you will run the placement guide for your side panel and your pocket piece. And after that, then it's your sewing line for just sew those in place. Then you will open up your fabric pieces, secure them in place, run your top stitching, which in my case is a motif stitch and a triple stitch. Then you will run your design. And then you will run your back piece to your preferred method. Let me talk a little bit about the pocket. The way that I do my pocket is I created it. The measurements will be down below. I folded it in half so that there is a fold line up at the top. That way you have no raw edges and no real seam up at the top of your pocket. It's just a folded piece. And your opening here is just big enough to be able to slip in a tea bag or a small little treat, and your mug can fit right up here, and this is a great place for your treat. I hope you enjoyed making today's project. Please like and subscribe to be notified when I do post more videos. If you found that this was a useful tutorial and would like to share it with others, I encourage you to do so. I would love to see the projects that you made based on the tutorial that you have just watched. If you could go over to my social media page and post a picture of what you have created, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. May your bobbin always be full.